Good morning. It's Sabina. I told you I'd be back on sooner than a half a year. I just want to come on here today and read a poem, of course. And I hope everybody's doing well. This last week, I'm going to talk about today. What I want to talk about is selfishness. This last week, I had an encounter actually with a family member of mine. I'll tell you the story in a minute. But it got me thinking, and there is not one of us, not you, not me, not any of us, that has never been guilty of being selfish. And I want to get to the root of that. Like, why are we selfish? And there's a whole list of things I wrote down. But, selfishness, we live in a society where we're just kind of taught to be selfish. It's all about ourselves, get ahead, do whatever it takes for yourself. We even take selfies, right? We're just consumed with ourselves. But a lot of times, selfishness, it starts from our childhood. A lot of times, selfishness comes from roots of rejection, abandonment, having a messed up childhood, and then you're trying to make it in life. And I'm jumping ahead, but that's I'm just laying out the foundation of kind of some of the stuff I want to talk about. And I wanted to read you this poem that I had written, and it was called Break Down That Door. So, and it kind of correlates with what I'm talking about, because we all have those areas and those chambers in our heart where we can think that we are healed of something, but we have that one area. Nope, don't touch that. We're not dealing with that. No, we don't go there. You ever hear family members say, we don't talk about that, right? Like maybe there's a family secret, right? And nope, we don't go there. But the thing is, we're only as sick as our secrets. And the more we avoid that door, whatever that door is, it could be anything. It could be a trauma. It could be a hurt, a habit, a hang up, an addiction, anything, right? The more we pretend it's not there, the louder it's going to keep banging, because it wants to be free. But you're the only one that has the key, and you have to open it, and you got to face it. Whatever you have to face, whatever that area of your life is that you have been avoiding, you got to face it. Because if you don't, it's never going away, and it's just going to defile the rest of your life. It's going to keep causing mayhem and whatever, and you'll never be free. So that's where this poem came from. And it's basically me crying out to God, right? Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. I have something hidden deep within. It's like a monster in my soul fighting with me for full control. If I don't feed it, it throws a fit. It tries to tell me it won't let go of its grip. Father, when I say I can't take much more, it quietly goes back and deadbolts the door. I bang and I scream to get in, but it holds part of me hostage and mutters, I win. For a moment, I forget who I really am, so I pretend it might even be one of my friends. But the pain and the aches are undeniably real. I try to block out how I truly feel. The disaster it caused brings a holy resolve. As I go through the motions, it continues to evolve. Father, I cry out to you to break it all down. You said what was lost shall one day be found. Father, it leaves me tired and bare. It wants me to surrender so I no longer care. But I know I was made for so much more, so I'm ready to break down this old familiar door. I know I was made for so much more, so today is the day I'm busting down that door. Boom. Bust down that door. Whatever that door is. I don't care if it's fear, if it's rejection, if it's abandonment, if it's loneliness, if it's whatever. Because something in you is not, it's like you can't move forward until it's dealt with. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things you could get done, but you will always have that like looming in the back of your life, in the back of your mind, So, and I guess that kind of can be selfishness too, right? So I challenge everybody today that whatever area of your life that you have still not wanted to look at, do it. It's scary. It's painful. But then it's gone. It can't go anywhere until you release it. So that's just food for thought. So selfishness. So I wrote down the definition of what selfishness is. So selfishness is the quality of a state of being selfish, exclusive regard to one's own interest and your own happiness, that supreme self-love or self-preference which leads to a person to direct his purpose to the advancement of his own interest, power, or happiness without regarding others. So let's think about that. Without any regard for others, right? I know, and I'm going to tell you in a minute the story that really triggered this. You know, I know so many people that they have to prove that they made it, right? So like their whole life, think about it, we have one life on this earth, is making the most money, being so beautiful, being so successful, because they have something to prove. Because when they were younger, they were told they were never going to make it. So now they're going to show the world that they made it. But you want to know something? They're still miserable. They're still anxious. They may have all this stuff. But it's like that scripture, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? How many miserable people are out there that have all the money in the world? You would look at them and you're like, wow, I wish. Don't ever wish. Don't wish you were someone else. Be grateful for being you. I don't care if you're a mess today. I don't care if you're depressed today. I do care. But you know what I mean. I don't care. Don't compare yourself to other people. Because you don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know. You look at Facebook and whatever, TikTok, and you're like, oh, wow, they're so this, they're so that. But you don't know the demons that are lurking. You don't know who's crying themselves to sleep at night. You don't know who's going home and getting beat by that husband where it looks like their relationship is so amazing on social media. We just don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm just saying, don't compare yourself. Love you, but in a healthy way. And that's what I'm getting to. Some people would I hear that too a lot. It's time for me. I got to worry about me. It's time for me to be selfish. No. It's a healthy, we should love ourselves. Don't get what I'm saying today twisted. We should love ourselves. It's important. But too much, and I'm going to get into scriptures after what the Bible says about what Jesus talks about. We're supposed to deny ourselves, pick up the cross, and follow Jesus if you're a follower of Christ and you're listening to this. But even if you're not a follower of Christ, I talk to people that are not saved all the time, and they even say, that people are so selfish. We see it in our society. You know, it's like sometimes I'm driving by, right? And I see someone holding a sign, or I see a homeless person, right? A lot of homeless people in my town. And sometimes I'm like, and meanwhile, I'm not even in a rush, right? And it's 100 degrees here. And I'm they're thirsty. And I don't stop to give them a water. And I think about that. There's been times I've turned back around. I'm like, why would you just takes 2 seconds? What? Because I'm going where I'm going. You can't stop for a minute. I don't want to be selfish. And I've been selfish in a lot of ways. We've all been selfish in a lot of ways. And some of the reasons that I had written down that we become selfish, right? Society, right? It's what is prevalent in our, me, myself, and I. When we grow up with no love. If you grow up and you didn't have a mom and dad, which many of us grew up that way, then you learn to just take care of yourself. And it's all about yourself. Now it's very hard for you to go and give to other people because you've always had to take care of yourself. So that's an area, that's a door, right? Like the poem that you need to deal with. Then you have people that are spoiled. I work with kids. It is no joke. I'm thinking, when I was a kid, I used to rake leaves for money. I made bank. Shoveling snow. These kids you have that entitlement mentality. And a lot of times where that comes from too is a lot of parents, they don't realize. Maybe they grew up messed up. So now they want to give their kids everything. Or they want them to lack for nothing. And then it's it's backfiring, because now you got a bunch of spoiled little brats that, even though you want, and I'm sorry, I'm just being honest, but you want to give them everything. The best thing you can give your kids is to have selflessness, gratitude, appreciation. Because if you have gratitude, and you appreciate what you have, you're not going to have that selfish spirit in you. So that's like a big, so growing up either with no love, growing up entitled, thinking that the world owes you something. The world owes you nothing. Just saying, right? What else did I write? Having a poverty mindset. What does that mean? Poverty mindset. Maybe you've always been in survival mode, right? Sometimes people hoard, right? And you don't want to give because you're afraid you're not going to have, right? But the Bible teaches us that we to give, and it shall be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. So if you live a lifestyle, I've never had like a lot, but everything I have, if there's even a scripture, like if your brother's in need, if you have something that someone else needs, give it. But we hold on when we have these wounds, right? Like the title of this whole video, these wounds that make us selfish, because we're like, okay, well, I need to make sure I have enough. I has to die. It has to. And Jesus has to live through us if you're a believer, but that's just the truth. Because the more we're out there giving and loving, it actually makes us full. And then we're not, because a lot of people that are selfish are also really, they're miserable in a lot of ways. So, all right, so another one. I said that. Wrong belief systems. That's a good one. A lot of people think, just like, people think if you cry, you're weak, right? I used to think that. I was like, I will never cry again. No. If you cry, just because, listen, I'll bawl right here if I had them right now. If you cry, that doesn't mean you're weak. Some people think, oh, that's pathetic. Oh, would you just, you're going to be so selfless and always giving, and how that makes you weak. No, it doesn't. It makes you strong. A confident person can be is selfless. Selfish people are insecure. I think I wrote that. They are. Selfish people are insecure. Because if you were secure, you'd be able to give of yourself, your time, your talents, your whatever. Someone needs a ride. I knew someone that needed a ride the other day, right? Okay, I have a car. I'm off. They need a ride to work. Boom. It's like not even like it's a no-brainer, but most people would think, oh, I don't want to waste my gas. Oh, I'd have to get up early. Oh, it's all rooted in self. And God can't bless that. So if you are a believer and you're living selfishly, it's time to, and I'm not saying this to condemn anyone, I'm just saying we got to think. There's times I think our minds naturally are selfish, because then I'll have a moment where I'm about to do something selfish, or, and then I feel bad, and I'm like, that's not really cool of me, insecurities, like I said, abandonment issues. So like some people are insecure. Say you ever have this and this happened, like say some people like say you don't want your friends to meet. I know people like this in my family. A lot of the stories I'm going to say today, I'm not going to name names, but I'm giving you real life examples, because like I've come on here before and I'm praying for my family to get set free, but I have a very selfish family. I'm sure other people out there have that, and it can be like, it's gut-wrenching. It hurts. You know what I mean? So say you ever in high school, or even now, where all of a sudden you have a friend, right? And maybe, well, I don't know, I've never been that way, but I know people that have, where you're like, you don't want anyone to meet this person because you're afraid that everyone's gonna like them, and then they're gonna shun you out, right? So you selfishly don't want them to be, or like, when people are jealous of like the pretty girl or the good looking guy, and like, it's like all of it is self-induced. Yeah, it's insecurity, but it's like, it's selfish. We are so much more selfish than we realize. Like, people like to think I'd like to think I'm such a good person. No, I'm selfish too. And I don't want to be. And I got to examine myself every day and see the areas of my life where I'm selfish. So there's just like, you know, maybe not like I think of a story right now, like OCDs, right? If you have like a mental condition, or you're struggling with an addiction, big one, right? Excuse me, burped. Makes you selfish, right? Doesn't matter if your family's begging, pleading, crying, please, you know, you need that fix. You got to do what you got to do. And addiction's not just drugs, because like when I was growing up, I had a mom that was addicted to relationships. And I remember as a little girl crying, begging her, please, why can't we be enough? Me and my sister, we love you. You don't need a man. But she had an unresolved issue. She had a need because she had no mother and father. Her mother abandoned her. And her mother was selfish because her mother took off and came to America and left her kids with an abuser. Selfish because she had to make it, right? And didn't go back for her kids. She could have went back, but she didn't. So what is this? What is it? My point of all this? Oh, my aunt. I wasn't supposed to say that. Whatever. She, like, I remember years ago, we got stranded, right? And she has like major like OCD with cleaning, right? Like everything has to be a certain way, and germs and all that. And we needed a ride. And she came, but she wouldn't let us in our car. She couldn't. We had to call a tow truck and get help because no one else can be in her car. So we become selfish because we're sick. And that's why it's important for us to get healed. And I know these are some extreme stories, but like, you know, like I said, the guy that needed water, that like, we want to live a life that glorifies God. And we have to step out of our comfort zone. And sometimes we do. Most things I do, sometimes I don't feel like doing. It's not about my feelings. You know what I mean? It is, but it isn't. Because if I really went by it, I don't feel like going to work today. Well, guess what? If you don't get up and go to work, you're going to lose your job and you're going to be homeless. Right? So we can't be living by our feelings. We have to know certain things. Like if we find ourselves becoming very self-absorbed or everything's about, you know, well, this is convenient for me, you know, and that brings me back to what triggered me to even do a quick little video about this, if it's going to be quick, maybe. Is I had not seen my cousin in years. When I say years, like decade, maybe more. And like we had like reunited back when I was in New York, and then we didn't talk for years, right? Turns out he ended up moved to Florida. So like, you know, once in a while I would see him on my social media, and I would you know, he would like one of my things, like, so I got invited to his son's birthday party. Now I didn't know his son, I didn't know anybody, right? I knew like my cousins by like, I know them, like they're my cousins, but everyone's all grown, has families, husbands, wives, children, whatever. So I was a little like nervous, like, but I was like, oh, you know, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe God's restoring our family, and I would love to know, you know, family, right? Because I grew up, I didn't have family. So I drive an hour there, right? And I'm like, oh shoot, like he's turning 18, like I didn't. So I just threw some money in a car. Like I didn't, honestly, I wrote a note, but I threw money in an envelope. I wasn't gonna come without nothing. I go there, doesn't say one word to me the whole time, and I get it. Like I'm not even really mad about that. I understand it was about his son. It wasn't about me, you know. But I thought at some point he'd like sit down and talk to me or something, right? You just think, right? So it was just weird. So then finally, like, I'm there for a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave, because like it was just, I felt uncomfortable. So I go to leave, and he's like, oh wait, he's like, take a picture. So then I'm like, okay. So like we take a picture, and next thing you know, it's on Facebook, right? And I'm like, it's weird. And like he's friends with like my dad's wife on there. That's what started me getting those weird messages. If you listen to my message that's exactly how it started. That I was getting those bizarre texts, and who knows, maybe it was her, because she was another woman. I should bring that up too. Jealousy. She was jealous of my mother, so my dad wasn't allowed to talk to us. We were grown adults. Selfishness. Not thinking, hey, these girls deserve to have a father too. She had a child with him. That's selfishness. selfish, and then you're causing more damage. See, when we're selfish, we spread fire all over the place. Back to the story. So I kept it inside my heart. I left. I thought maybe he'd text me, be like, hey, thanks, it was nice seeing you. Anything, you know, like if you show up somewhere, at least me, like if I show up somewhere or invited, or someone comes to my house and I invite, I'll be like, thanks for coming, you know, whatever. Never heard from him again. So like months went by. So I was like praying, and I was like, I don't know, I feel like, I don't want to say offended, but I was like, did I do something? Like, I was like, I don't know, like I'm feeling some type of way. So I reached out. I left him a voice text, and I just shared my heart. So he actually called me back, which I totally respect. And he's like, I was like, hey, I just want you to see how like that looked, you know, it was just weird. Like, then I never heard from you again. I'm like, why did you invite me over? Like, you know, if we weren't going to talk, or, you know, or thanks for coming or something. And this may sound minute, but if you knew all my family, like, history, and just, you would understand. So, and it isn't minute. It's just called common decency, respect, right? So, he was out of his own mouth. I respect it. He goes, I'll be honest with you, I didn't grow up, and he grew up messed up. He's like, I didn't grow up with family. He goes, it's all about my immediate family. He goes, honestly, he goes, I'm selfish. So I was like, huh. I respected it. I was like, well, and he's a believer. So I was like, well, I was like, you know, God really doesn't call us to be that way. Like, we're really supposed to be selfless. He's like, and they got like a defensive mode. He's like, he goes, yeah, but I'm telling you, you know, like, okay, like this. And I knew it was hard for him to humble himself and actually calm me. So I didn't like dig, right? But I was just, after that phone call, and I had left another one for another family member, because I'm like, you know what? Like, I feel like unless we confront things, we can't resolve things. So sometimes, like I was saying in my last video, to get that masterpiece, things get messy. And my whole life, I always kept things to myself, and then it would either breed a resentment or self-harm, because I would feel so rejected and hurt. So this new Sabina has been more, and I've seen it like in the last 3 years, I would say, and I don't do this all the time, but I'm just saying, like, speak the truth in love. That's what the Bible teaches us, right? So if somebody, you know, it says go to your brother if you have an offense. So if somebody offends you, and then maybe they didn't mean it, like he had no idea. He goes, I would have never even thought anything of it. So I'm like, oh, okay. You know, so that's okay. Now, other people would have been like, you know, right? They would have told me where to go. But I respect that he at least admitted that, and he said, like, I grew up with no family. So he wants to, everything is about his children and his wife. And he said that probably other people think that about him too. So where am I going with all this? It's important that we get healed. It's important that we realize, whether we're a believer or not, but especially if we're a believer, that we look at the areas of our lives where we're bound up, and we let God heal those areas, and that we live a life that is selfless. Because, like I always say, we can't take anything with us when we go. You know, on my last video, I don't even think it had started. Hello, I'm not doing this with the political stuff, but like, we could be in war right now. We could, you know, there are people dying all over the place. And whether we agree with what's happening or not, or whatever, like, we don't know. Tomorrow's not promised, and I don't want to live in regret. I had so many regrets from my childhood and my younger years. I want to make the most of every moment, because once the moment's gone, it's gone. You understand? Like we don't have today, that's it. We're never going to have this day. We're never going to have June 24th, 2025 again. So if you have an opportunity to, you know, bless somebody, and like I said, I'm not coming on here like trying to, listen, I could name a lot of things that I do that I don't tell anybody about. It doesn't matter. I don't do it for self-glorification. Ew. I'm just saying, I think like this. I'm like, if somebody's hungry and I have food, why wouldn't I give it to them? What's keeping you from being selfless? That's what I'm saying. If and also, like, what you sow, you reap. You know how people, and I always say this, like people believe in karma, right? Well, if you, God forbid, you ever need a ride to work, or God forbid you ever are hungry or thirsty, or you lose everything, how would you want to be treated? We got to treat people the way we want to be treated. And it doesn't matter. I know when you have a wounded spirit, it's hard. Like I was saying, all these things, what causes selfishness? A lot of times it's pretty much, yes, there's just the natural instinct to be selfish, but a lot of times it's unresolved issues, abandonment issues. You were abandoned by your friends, your family, so screw everybody else, right? Don't tell me people don't think like that. There were times in my life I thought like that, especially in my teen years, right? Or, here we go, here's another one. How many times, and I know people, and I've done it years ago, especially when I was younger, before Christ, what? You're lonely. You're a guy, right? You're lonely. You don't want, and you start talking to a girl, and she's not really what you're looking for. But you go because you don't want to be alone. So you keep hanging out with her, and then you lead her on. And then what happens? The next thing you know, she falls in love with you. But then you cut it off because you never really were serious. Or, even worse, you marry them. Or because whatever. You settle because you are not willing to wait. And you're selfish. So many people, and that goes for women do it to men, men do it to women, where friends do it. You hang out with this friend, you really don't like them, they annoy the crap out of you, but you hang out with them because there's nothing else going on your Friday night. That's selfish. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, well, get a hobby. Make a video. I'm just saying, like, we don't realize how selfish we are. Or maybe like you're asked to, you ask for help, like someone asks you to help them with something, and you lie, and you're like, oh, I can't. Like, listen, I'd rather someone say to me, I don't feel like doing something, than for them to make up some bogus excuse, which I usually end up figuring it out. Just be honest. But I'm gonna read. I'm not gonna stand here too long. I just had to put that out there. I don't know, because I'm gonna be checking myself this week and this year. I don't want to be selfish anymore. And like I said, selfishness, it comes in many forms, okay? Selfishness comes in many forms. And I challenge everybody to really think about the areas of your life where you've been selfish. Like I said, when I was growing up with my mom, she admits it. She'll tell you to your face now. Because she had an unmet need. When you have a wound, it all comes back to you. A lot of the things I talk about on here is because I was the poster child for dysfunction, okay? Have I arrived? No. But when you are wounded and you have all these wounds in your soul, you have bitter roots, when you have rejection, when you have things that like you just never dealt with, they make you selfish, even if you don't want to be. It's like you can't help it, It just is what it is. So how do we overcome it? Well, start off by repenting of it, right? Look at it, acknowledge it, repent, say, God, I see I'm selfish in this area. I did that this week. And I'm like, please help me overcome this. I don't want to be like that, but it happens. Be honest, right? It's all about being honest, transparent. So, pulled up a few scriptures. There are, by the way, if you are a Christian, you are a believer, you need to Google some scriptures on selflessness. There's a lot, but I'm not going to read them all. So I printed out a few. So Matthew 20:28 says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as ransom for many. So Jesus came. He was God. He came to serve. All his whole life, what did he do? He was out healing people, setting people free, casting out devils. They treated him like garbage, and he loved his Judas. He knew Judas was going to betray him. But even your Judas in your life promotes you to where you're supposed to be. Because Jesus came here because he was going to die. And Judas was used to catapult him to the cross. So, but Jesus knew. Jesus was God in human form. He knew what he was doing, but he still loved him. So when you can love your enemies, when you can serve people with a pure motive, not, that's another thing. People always, that's selfish too. How many people, and I know I always bring up preachers and this and that, but how many people get into ministry and stuff? And I've been to like, out with people, and like they just start like bragging, or like they want to just show how many followers they have, or this and that. Like their heart is in the wrong place. It's not to serve, it's to be, look at me. Selfishness, which is probably because, what did we say earlier? Insecurity. If you're insecure, I promise you'll be selfish. How do you overcome that? God, make me secure in you. Because if you're living for an audience of one, and you're just living your life every day for what God thinks about you, then it doesn't matter when everyone's like, bravo, or when everybody's like, and they're ready to kill you. Because that's how it is. People will love you one day, hate you the next day. You can't live your life based on what people think of you. You can't. If you're going to live a healthy life. Because then I've said this a million times, then you'll always be in some sort of turmoil. Or you'll be a people pleaser. People pleasers, they think they're selfless, they're selfish. They are. Second one I have, which a lot of us know, John 15:13. Greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friends. Jesus laid down his life for us. He literally died a brutal death for every single person listening, every single person in this whole world. Now, he did it whether you were going to love him or not. Can you say that? Would you die for your friend? Probably not. But when everyone knows God so loved the whole world, right? That he gave his only begotten son. We say that so loosely. Think about it. He his only son to die a brutal death and take all our shame, our guilt, our pain, our sickness, our hate. It doesn't matter if you're a Satanist listening to this. He died for you. Doesn't matter if you're whatever you're into. He still died for you in hopes that you would receive that beautiful gift that he gave you and take it and end up in eternity with him. But he was going to do it anyways, even if you were the only person on this earth, which is pretty powerful if you ask me. Galatians 6:2. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So, how, and I've had this boy, do people scatter when you're going through a hard time, right? When everything's good, everybody's coming to the party. But as soon as your car breaks down, as soon as you have a family problem, a sickness, where did everyone go? Oh, it's too much drama. Oh, I can't be bothered. No one can be bothered. It's selfish. Now, I'm not saying, look, like I said in my last video, there are people that will suck you dry. And they will there's always drama surrounding them, and they will use you, right? And that's it. That's their main goal in life. They just are takers. It is what it is. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if you see someone, we're called to bear each other's burdens. If your friend is depressed, love them. Be there. Listen. Maybe they just need a listening ear. I've been there where I've been so down, and all I wanted was someone to listen or encourage me. Not always have to give them, how some people always want to give you, advice. Sometimes no one needs advice. Sometimes someone just wants to vent. Let them vent. What is it to you? Let them talk it out. And usually they'll feel better. Bear each other's burdens. If someone lost their job and, you help them out with food or whatever. But like I said, doesn't mean people think, oh, that's stupid, you're weak. No, it's not weak. Now, like I said, if you're taking advantage of somebody, that's a different story. We have wisdom. We need discernment. We need wisdom. Ask God. I always ask God, should I help this person? Because sometimes he'll tell me no. Because they keep doing this to all these other people. And they're not, they're being enabled, and they're not willing to help themselves at all. But that's not usually the case. We all go through hard times. We all go through storms, okay? I don't care who you are. You could be in a storm right now. You know? Luke 6:35. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, hoping for nothing in return. Hoping for nothing in return. And your reward will be great. And you will be sons of the Most High. For he is the kind to the unthankful and evil. So, you know, I had this issue this past school year. I had some people that just, they hated me because I liked what the behavior specialist and whatever their craziness was. And they wanted me to hate this lady too. And I knew they were talking crap about me. And I just showed them. So they must have been like, what the heck? I would just show them so much kindness and love. And it takes a secure person to do that. Because if you're insecure, you're like, screw them, right? But the Bible calls us to love your enemies. It's easy to love someone that's nice to you. But now you're the person that's been talking bad about you all over town is hungry, lost their job, needs something. Most people, let's be real, and even me, I'd have a minute where I'm like, Most people, they wouldn't bless that person, right? I actually had a situation, I don't know if I shared this in my last video real quick, that like my second teacher aide I had, like she totally betrayed me, right? Out of nowhere, she like went behind my back and she wanted to go in the other room and she didn't keep it real with me, whatever. So like she like turned out to be like a real, like I didn't expect her to be like this. Because I know she was damaged, she had a lot of issues, but I didn't expect her to do me dirty like that. But she did. And I still showed her kindness every day. I mean, I wasn't as, forthcoming, but I was like, all right. So the last day of school, she resigns. She's like, hey, can you give me a letter of recommendation? And I was like, yeah, sure. Because she was a hard worker. So I told her when they call me, I would do that for her. And she's like, can I hug you? I was like, yeah. Because even after she, betrayed me, I was like, because you know what? People are damaged. People are broken. People are doing messed up stuff to you. It's not even them. Like, we don't wrestle flesh and blood. There are spirits and damage and trauma and things that are attaching itself to people. So they make them do all sorts of things. But if you keep loving someone, love never fails. Usually, it'll break down their wall. And even if it doesn't, whatever. Like it says right here, you're answering to him, not people. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it. God will take care of that. And if they want to continue doing you dirty, who's that? Then that's a scary thing. You don't want to be messing with God's kids. Just saying. Romans 12:10. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love. Proverbs 3. Do not withhold good. Love this one. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hands to do so. So if someone is hungry and you have extra, or even if you don't have extra, you have, and you don't go and help them, that's not okay. That's selfish. If someone needs help, sometimes I need help with yard work and help it. If you have it in your power to help someone, do it. Because God sees everything. And he also knows, like I said, he knows the motives, he knows our intents, he knows our hearts. So do it from a pure heart, not expecting anything in return. And I promise you, on the days when you're struggling, it'll come back. I promise you that. I promise you that. And I'll read one more, and then we'll close it up. All right. 1 Corinthians. Let no one seek his own, but each one the other's well-being. So let's be real, guys. Our whole society, and this is in the church, this is everywhere. Everybody's seeking their own, what they can get. What can this person do for me? What can this job do for me? What can this... It's like, okay, well, if everybody... Now, this is good. If everybody was living a selfless life, everybody would be satisfied. Because if I'm loving you selflessly, and this is good for even in relationships. You know how relationships, everyone's like, well, he's not doing this for me. She's not doing this for me. Well, if you're loving your spouse or your significant other, or your mother, father, sister, brother, if you're giving of your all and they're giving of their all, then you're meeting in the middle, and then you're both going to get what you need. But unfortunately, because everybody has the I focus, they are like, well, screw that. This person didn't do this, so I'm not going to do that. And it becomes this like friction. But if you really are being the best friend you can be, and vice versa, and you're really thinking about that other person's well-being over yourself, and they're doing the same to you, how do you lose? You can't. It's a win-win. So why don't we see things like that? There's so much wisdom. I love Proverbs in the Bible. Even if you don't believe in God, I promise you, there's many people that even say that. There's so much wisdom. God is all very wise. He's a genius, right? So there's so many good nuggets. And really, I just wanted to come on here quick. How is it never quickly? How did I do 40 minutes again? Oh my God, I'm a caqueron. So I just wanted to really just come on here and talk about how let's do better at not being selfish in any way. And if you are selfish in areas, get to the root. Be honest. Figure out why. You know, you can only change, like I always say, if you're honest. Are you insecure? Are you have abandonment issues? Are you just be honest. I just don't care about other people. There you go. Be real about it. And hopefully you want to change that. Because it matters. It matters in God's eyes. And it matters with the people all around us. You know, do unto others how you want done to you. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope somebody got something out of this. And I know I sure did. Because I don't want to be selfish anymore. And I can see how I close off and how I can be really some type of way. And I apologize to anybody when I get like that. Because it's not right. And it's a defense mechanism. And I see it. And I just challenge everybody to look at their own stuff and see where we can do better, right? Isn't that what it's all about? It's all about us doing better. Do better, but I want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to, better than I was last year. It's all about growing, right? So, at that note, I'm going to close off in a prayer. And I will see you next time. So, Lord, I just come before you, God. And I thank you for everything that I said today, that, Lord, it would not fall on deaf ears. And I just pray that you would help me and all of us, anyone that listens to this video, to, Lord, to be selfless, God, like you were, like you are. And that we would really examine our ways and think about the things we say and do every day and how they affect other people, God. I pray you would bring healing to every person listening to this video, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and anyone that has that wounded spirit, God, that you would reveal your love to them and that you would draw every person that listens to this video, whether they believe in you or not, close to you because you love them. In Jesus' name, amen.